Every now and then, you get this one amazing game drop that you just can't stop playing. It's the type of game that you could easily put hundreds of hours in without even realizing it, and it also becomes the game that you just compare everything to. If you couldn't tell from my videos already, that game is definitely Arc Raiders. And I'm going to be honest, I haven't really found myself buying new games in a while, since nothing that was released this year seems really appealing. So having such an amazing game to wrap the year off has been great. And I think Arc Raiders should be taken as a lesson for a lot of other big gaming studios and franchises in the years ahead. There's a lot to take in from Arc Raiders, and a lot that can and should be applied to different games. And there are parts of Arc Raiders that definitely make me want to play it more than a game like Battlefield 6, even though I usually play and enjoy the genre and style of FPS games. I'd say the first of those factors that really help differentiate Arc Raiders, especially from a game like Battlefield, for example, comes in the maps. One of the main complaints that's been coming from Battlefield right now is how soulless, small, and empty the maps feel. I've heard a lot of people say that the maps just seem like assets shoved together and don't resonate with the, main focus of the maps in the Battlefield franchise, and I definitely felt the same while playing it. That's where a huge difference comes in from Arc Raiders. The maps in this game are amazing. They actually fit the context of the game, and each map is masterfully centered around a theme. For instance, the Buried City map fits that title completely. There's amazing buildings, everything's connected, and it does actually just look like a city in its totality. And in a map like that, you can even discover specific buildings, such as maybe a medical building with loot that fits like bandages. There's overall just some really great contextual decisions put in each map that make it all cohesive. And each map also offers spots for different types of arc to choose different areas to hide and attack in, which means that you need to have some sort of strategy when approaching each location. Basically, the maps require you to think and work carefully about what you want and where you need to go for it, and force you into this mindset of someone who actually needs to loot in this world. Now, you might think that, well yeah, Arc Raiders is an extraction shooter focused around getting loot from different locations, so the maps have to make sense, so the loot and main objective and the game makes sense. But other games like Battlefield are all about using the environment and terrain to strategize too, and yet their maps have been pretty lacking so far. And all of this map talk is even beside how amazing everything in Arc Raiders looks. And the aesthetics and ambience of the game make just going into a round and exploring fun on its own. I think something else that other games should definitely take away from Arc Raiders is how intelligent and integrated the enemies are. Now, not every game is an extraction shooter, so there won't always be crazy robots or those sorts of environmental enemies that hide in buildings and attack from the sky and stuff. So the idea of the arcs being these robots all over the map is not what should be taken away from the game. Instead, it's how just intelligent the arcs' enemies seem to be, and how diversified they can be in their attacks. I can recall a lot of situations where I got spotted by an arc and, they start chasing you and going all berserk and whatnot. I usually end up behind a wall where I could shoot the arc without being attacked, and the arc realizes that quickly and switches its spot so it could reach me. Those sorts of scenes are just amazing to see mid-game. In a lot of games I've played with campaigns, for example, the enemies programming just tends to be dumb in the sense that they're super easy to beat and all act the same. In those games, I just find myself sort of rushing through the campaign or story while feeling pretty bored the whole time. But in Arc Raiders, you actually have to plan how to avoid or attack the different arcs. And the fact that there's so many different types of arcs definitely adds to that overarching ambience that differentiates this game as well. Something pretty unique about this game as well is how much choice it actually gives the player. In other round-based games, you're most usually confined to maybe one objective or a set of quests or something. They're not usually like open worlds where you have the chance to develop your character or your skill set however much you want, even if you're still in the main quest or plot line in the story. But in Arc Raiders, there's a lot of choices to be made. If you pay attention to how the game is structured, you'll notice that it's your choice to pick a map to complete a mission, or that it's your choice what loadout to take. Even in certain quests that ask you to try out a certain weapon or do something specific, you have choices and different ways to go about it. There was actually this one early quest that asks you to take a Pharaoh and try to eliminate certain arcs with it. I actually just used a completely different gun to take out the same arcs, and it got counted as completing the task. So essentially, the game just doesn't really confine you in any way. Even the story and environment of the game play into that sort of freedom. You're not introduced as some savior of the world type type character. The whole point of the game is being just a sort of regular person that's trying to survive by looting stuff. Essentially, Arc Raiders was able to put the feeling and freedom you get from sandbox games into a round-based game, which is pretty amazing and something a lot of other games should take inspiration from. I mean, you can say that every round of Arc Raiders is the exact same concept, but it's not, because each round depends on what you decide you want to do. I think something else that Arc Raiders did really well was that it established its own style from the get-go, so it really got this distinct identity as a game. Everything in Arc Raiders is a nice mix of retro and a futuristic imagination of that retro style, and the cosmetics are so unique, and admittedly even a little weird looking at times, which still goes along with the futuristic stuff, but so far they've been doing well with keeping their identity connected all throughout the game, you know, unlike some other games. And what's super cool is that you can see this identity in every single map with all the ruined buildings, broken lighting, and abandoned look. No map feels alike, and yet every map has a specific take on Arc Raiders' identity. And honestly, looking at games like Call of Duty, even if you ignore the cosmetics, the entire recent game just completely strays away from what Call of Duty is in both the campaign and multiplayer. What's with the giant zombie bosses and stuff? What happened to Black Ops? Can you guys tell this is annoying me? In any case, Arc Raiders kept the aesthetics of the game contained, and I really hope they continue to do that in the future updates that come to this game. What's amazing about this game is also how it approaches the existence of other players. Usually in multiplayer games, teams are pretty well defined, and the objective is to take out the other team. In Arc Raiders, you coexist with other players like they're real people in the universe, so they just exist rather than be objectives or anything else. And what's even nicer about this game is that progression isn't limited by time or anything. In other games, you usually work through a battle pass or something that's just limited time, takes a lot of hours, and if you don't pay a ton extra for it, then you won't really reap the rewards of your gaming much. In Arc Raiders though, there are so many ways to progress. You grow in level, you grow in weaponry, you grow in supplies, you access different maps, you get to different quests, harder enemies, and so much more. You can even progress through upgrading Scrappy. So that way, players aren't just confined to this competitive time-based atmosphere and growth. Instead, Arc Raiders is really well suited to any sort of player, no matter what time they can or can't play. I believe that's a huge part of the reason why they've sustained and even grown in player count over the past 2 weeks. Something that I do think is nice though that's been happening with both Arc Raiders and Battlefield recently is how devs end up approaching player feedback. In a lot of games, you see players complaining about certain features and bugs that are all too common and getting ignored. These two games have been really great about handling and implementing player feedback and requests in patches, and I'm pretty excited to see what's to come in the next few years for both of them. I personally have been really enjoying playing through Arc Raiders, and I think it's a game that I'll enjoy playing for a while too. There's a lot of factors in it that are pretty refreshing and fun, and I definitely think there were a lot of game flops this year that should pay attention to how Arc Raiders was made. But what do you think? What should other games learn from Arc Raiders? And what's something you think could be changed in the game to make it better?